You're watching Pitch Up with the Pates, and join us today at Loudon Leisure World in Nottingham as we take a look at this 2023 Bailey Discovery D44. So as we step inside this Bailey Discovery D44, we can instantly see the changes on this 2023 model from the previous generation, launched in 2019. So we have the new upholstery. So prior to this it was a grey and mustard colour, and we can now see, similar to the 2023 Basecamp, the Swift Basecamp range, we've gone for a blue colour scheme. It's a little bit more subtle as well with the main upholstery colour. We think this looks really nice, really classy. It works well with the light, modern, contemporary feel of this caravan. So we've got that distinctive Bailey infinity window at the front. Got all the windows open today. It's about 26 degrees outside. We've got a nice breeze coming through. All the windows opened really easily. You can open them really wide. You just lock them in on the sides. So really benefiting from that at the moment. One of the things I really like about this Discovery is that it still has the fly screen on the infinity window. So on some of the new Bailey models, the fly screen has been taken away. It's possibly because the front window has got so large now that for whatever reason there must be issues in compatibility getting fly screens to fit those new window sizes, so they don't have them. So this particular window size, as with the Phoenix, still has the fly screens, which I think is really useful in summer. I've seen in some of the forums people saying that it's not an issue not having fly screens on caravan windows, but if you're pitched up in a field, then the chances are you've sort of got to get insects, flies, etc. inside the caravan, like you would at home if you had the back door open, for example. So really appreciate that in this Bailey Discovery. It's also got the Remis blinds, which are a really nice quality blind. Again, this is not the case in some of the new Bailey models. Again, I feel because of the compatibility of the large infinity windows in the Bailey Unicorn range and the Alicanto Grande, whereas these have got the Remis star blinds, which are really nice quality. They're a nice colour. The pleat size is really nice on these as well. Some of the pleat sizes are getting really small on the new Bailey models, which, as you can see, these have still got the sort of quite large pleat size, so the chances of sort of damaging them, creasing them, is a lot lower. And if you own one of the new Baileys, please let us know in the comments below, how do you get on with those new front blinds in the Unicorn and Alicanto Grandes. They are quite thin, they're sort of tissue paper-esque, and I do feel that from a longevity point of view, when these vans become 3 or 4 years old, the Discovery will age better in terms of wear and tear. And likewise with the side windows, you've got those, you can see that, picking up the lights, the Remis blinds. Really, really nice quality. You can sort of see they are much thicker than some of the newer choices used by Bailey. Really big windows as well. You will note there are no curtains on this Bailey Discovery, so that sort of adds to the contemporary aesthetic. We wouldn't possibly miss those. We haven't got curtains on the side windows of our Swift Conqueror. We have sort of fabric wall pads on the side instead. These have just got the white wall boards. They are sort of a eggshell type finish. They're sort of not gloss, they're not matte, they're somewhere in the middle, like an eggshell satin type finish. So they do look really modern. I think it works really well with the new colour choices that we'll talk about shortly in this Discovery. So this is the 4-berth fixed bed Discovery in the range, the 4.4. There's also the 4.4L, which is a 4-berth, but that doesn't have the fixed bed at the back. It has the side dinette with bunks. It's probably going to be the rarer of the 2023 Discovery range. They've had none here at Loudon Leisure World in Nottingham. I've not seen any yet, and I don't believe they are having any delivered. They've had the D44 and also the D42, which is the 2-berth. We really love the D42. It's really small, lightweight caravan, so easy to tow and really well thought out. It's possibly our pick of the range. But this D44, as we'll look at shortly, has the French fixed bed, which is great if you want a fixed bed design in one of these really contemporary, quirky and still unique propositions from Bailey. You'll notice in the front of this caravan there are no front lockers. You've got the open shelves, a little like the Swift Basecamp range. What I do like about these, however, is they are lit, so quite deep as well, so anything that you do put on there isn't going to fall off in transit, so really useful. Again, really nice aesthetic there, where that sort of grey sweeps in with the contour of the front of the caravan. I've had a good look round this. It's just come from factory, so it's fresh from factory, been delivered to Loudons, and I've had a good look around it for snags and build quality, and it seems that Bailey have really improved the build quality on these Discoveries, and we'll look at that in a little bit more detail as we look around. But yeah, there seems far less sort of rough edges, sort of missing screws, or sort of attention to detail where things haven't been cut quite as neatly as they could have been. So yeah, I think there's definitely been an improvement. There's a few things that I've noticed, a couple of sort of stuck blinds that just sort of need to go through the PDI and be rectified, but in general I think really positive from this new 2023 range. There is definitely a new attention to detail come from Bailey in terms of the build quality of this range. So you've got lighting above that infinity window in the form of 2 spotlights, so that'll be some nice evening sort of mood lighting coming down in the front area of the lounge. And you've also got these spotlights that have a USB built in, so you can actually plug in your devices and charge your devices through the light there on the near side. The one on the off side, as you can see, doesn't have a USB, so I'm not quite sure why they couldn't do that. It'd be really easy. Yeah, there's definitely not one on there, so they're still stuck with the one. It would have been really easy just to spec 2 of those, because generally in a 4-berth caravan you've got to have at least a couple of people and more than one device to charge. So yeah, that's a shame. However, there is a positive. We have got a 230-volt socket that is included just down here under the front bench, and it's nice and flush as well. Looks really good in piano black and grey. So we have got that option there to plug in, but you'd have had 3 options if we'd have had a USB there in that offside front spotlight. So that is a shame. I'm sure it's something that could be changed easily if you wanted to spec it with your dealer or something, to be honest with you. If you had a look at Prima Leisure, I'm sure you can buy them and upgrade it yourself. It wouldn't be a difficult job. Also, if we're looking at the front area, you will notice, for those who have followed the Bailey Discovery range since its launch in 2019, that the front area has changed somewhat. So there used to be a fold-out table here. There was sort of, this didn't quite protrude as far. There were brackets underneath, and there was a fold-up table that came out. However, every single demo van that I saw over the years, so since its launch, and I must have seen in the double figures, so maybe sort of 12 to 15 of these caravans as I've been around dealers, for whatever reason the front table had dropped and actually damaged sort of the trim where it was fixed onto. It was a known problem. It sort of wasn't adequate in so the way it was fixed. There was too much weight in the table, so literally as soon as you touch the table, any weight, it strained those brackets, those hinges underneath, and it had damaged the trim. And in some sort of caravans that I've looked at, some of the Bailey Discoveries, it caused quite significant damage where it wasn't just a case of reinforcing with a batten. It needed warranty work to get some of the front trim replaced. So this is really positive. They've decided to drop it. I'm sure one of the main reasons is to prevent the warranty claims, but also it's not great for Bailey's reputation if you've got brand new caravans and it's got a known build issue. So this front shelf protrudes out, and it gives sort of a little room to put your things on. So you could probably put, I would say, phone on the side. On here you'd probably get your cups of tea. You're not going to fit any sort of plates, etc., but it could still be used for occasional storage of items, drinks, phones, any games, etc. You could just rest on there. So it is relatively useful. You've got this space below as well. So you've got this sort of area where the bed pulls out, of course, but it is used as, in the day, as a storage area, like a shelved area. And this here can also fit items in. So again, this would be great, and I'm sure the thought process was probably in place when this was put here, that you've got the 230-volt socket just below, and you can put your phones, your gadgets, etc. in there, and it'll keep them safe, hold on to them while things are charging. So that's a really good idea. You've also got these little cubby holes. So with this being a Bailey, there's no front locker, of course, so the benches can go right up to the front seat, the front of the caravan. So the seat goes right up to the front there, and as a result of that, not only do you get really long sofas, so the lounge seats are really quite long in this Bailey Discovery D44, and if you have a look in the description below, you'll see the bed sizes, that they are very generous in this front double. But you've got this cubby hole area as a result of having no front locker, where again you can sort of use for storage and put things. So it is open, so you can't hide the things you're putting in there, but I guess magazines, again, maybe an iPad, tablet, etc., you can stick in there. It's quite useful, and that is on both sides. So I'd rather have that than not, so that's quite a nice touch. And the finish of it seems relatively good as well. So you've got this sort of trim around, so it's no sharp edges, that soft rubber trim. So that's a real positive from Bailey, so really like that. So this front area of the caravan, the front of the lounge, I think for 2023 is a definite improvement, both from a practicality point of view, the colour scheme point of view, I think it's got a real contemporary feel to it, and now that front table has disappeared, it's solved sort of an annoying problem that this particular caravan had. So you've got some soft wall furnishings there, the pads on the wall. They are generally just double-sided sort of sticky tape, like the Velcro style on, so you can remove them easily if you wanted to clean them. And again, that really cool new colourway for 2023. Everyone seems to be going for the blue at the moment, both Swift with the Basecamp. We had a look recently on our YouTube channel at the Explore Active 304, the Kimberley dealer special, and again they've gone for a very similar blue finish, very similar upholstery, to be honest with you. So it seems that blue or navy is the colour of 2023. Okay then, so we'll just pan round and we'll start to have a look at the storage in the overhead lockers and the kitchen area. Some of the overhead lockers have positive catches, some don't. It'd be nice if they all locked down. The two at the front above the lounge, so these two here, these don't. Would have been really easy for Bailey to make those lockable. So that could be an issue when you're traveling. You might want to be careful what you store in these front overhead lockers. This one, of course, has the aerial, so the extendable aerial in there. In fact, we'll just tighten that one up. You've got your booster for the aerial in there also. I like the fact that they're shelved so you can organise your things, but again, I'll be very careful about what you put in there, particularly as these lockers, as you can see, they've got no positive catch, so you won't want anything falling and damaging the caravan, or anything that you didn't want damaging, obviously, that could fall out. However, as we move into the kitchen area, the storage lockers here, the cupboards have got positive catches on. Why we couldn't have those just there, I'm not sure, but that's really positive. I guess you've got to store cups, pots, plates, etc. in here, so they potentially are going to be heavier and could damage the work surfaces, so that's perhaps why they're on these. But I think they should have perhaps been on all of them. It would have made life easier when you're towing. But lots of room in there. I like the fact that one is open, so it gives you stacking choices and options, and this one is shelved. You won't want too much weight in there. It's not particularly sturdy, but for what you'd be carrying in the caravan, I'm sure it would be adequate. So really like that, and really like the fact they have the positive catches on there, so really, really good. You've got a small window to the kitchen area. You've got your fly screen, Remus again, and you've got a pull-up blind. Like the fact that this one's not pleated, easily wipeable if you get food on there. So if you're cooking a curry on your 3 gas burner hob and it splashes on here, wipes off really easy. That's a real positive, really like that. Wish we had one similar to that in our Swift. For some reason, Swift put the pleated sort of paper style blinds that are everywhere else in the caravan on the kitchen window. I think they should all kitchen blinds should be similar to this, easily wipeable. You're not going to damage them if you get any food on there, so really positive. So you've got the Thetford triplex here. So that is a combined oven grill, and then you've got your 3 gas burner hob on top. Yeah, no hot plate, no electric hot plate. That's a shame. I think it's really useful if you don't want to run off gas. But I suppose it's one of the compromises made with this essentially being classed as an entry-level caravan. However, I would perhaps argue the case. I think it's more of an alternative style caravan than an entry-level caravan. just in the fact it is so stylish, contemporary. It goes beyond entry level, but some of the spec could be argued to be entry level, i.e. 3 gas burner hob, like the Swift Sprites for example, Bailey Phoenix and what have you. Good size sink, practical, stainless steel. Real bonus that you've got two 30-volt sockets there. Really like these that Bailey are using now. So piano black surrounds, nice sort of anthracite grey in the middle. Same with the light switches as well. That's a real positive. You've got the spotlights just under here. And then you've got your Truma heating control to the top. So that's really smart. Looks really, really good against that grey. Really neat. I would say only issue I can see at this moment in time is the fact there's not an awful lot of space to put a coffee machine. So I've got a small Nespresso coffee machine that I can't live without my coffee, so it's essential, an essential luxury, but I have to bring it with me. It's always in the caravan. I've got one at home, one in the caravan. Where would I put that here? Not sure. Wouldn't fit there. Kettle might fit just here in the centre. But that would be the only sort of consideration. If you really like cooking, you like your worktop space, you are going to feel this. You are going to feel the lack of space in this area. There is another option. I'll show you that in a second when we pan round. However, yeah, that's probably a compromise. But for anyone who's watching this, who's either new to caravanning and you've been having a look at some of the caravans available on the market, or for some of you guys who've been caravanning for years, you'll understand that every caravan is compromised in one way or another, and it's just which compromises you decide to choose. So there's no perfect caravan, it's just the caravan that works for you. So if you're not big on cooking and you cook outdoors an awful lot, this might not be a problem. We tend to only use our kitchen area in winter. When we winter caravanning, we'll use the oven probably more than we would any other time. Whereas ordinarily we're outside and we're barbecuing, we're cooking outside, and we very rarely use the facilities in the caravan. Another noteworthy comment is the lack of microwave. I really feel that the inclusion of a microwave in this Bailey Discovery would lift this kitchen area to another level. We use the microwave regularly, regardless of time of year. It's great if you've just arrived on site, you need something quick to eat, you can stick something in the microwave while you're setting up, for example. And particularly, we've got a 4-year-old, so you might have a child who's got milk that needs warming, you might have a child who's using baby meals, and you might benefit from a microwave. I know some people have solved that by having microwaves in the awning, but I do feel that this caravan, because of the lack of kitchen space, the inclusion of a microwave would almost make up for that. Whereas the lack of microwave and lack of preparation space, it gives you two sort of compromises that have been made. So this cupboard to the side here, it is relatively large. Depth might be an issue, but I'm sure Bailey could come up with some design where a microwave could be included either here or behind. We'll pan round shortly and we'll look at sort of the space behind next to the door in a moment. So you've also got the Dometic fridge freezer just below the sink. We had a similar, if not the same actually, in our previous caravan, our Freestyle S4, which is a Swift Sprite Alpine 4 dealer special, and we found no issues with that. We've got a tall fridge freezer now, so we've got more storage, but these Dometic fridge freezer tried and tested, and I think that's a good choice for this caravan. I don't think anyone would have any issues with that spec. So we've also got storage underneath the oven grill, and I think that'd be probably the natural place to put your pots and pans. Good size area. If anything sort of falls, it's not going to get damaged. You've got isolators there for gas. To the side, and you've also got positive catch, which is really, really good. Bearing in mind, you're probably going to store some heavier items under there. I see a lot of people on forums where worktops get damaged, and it's generally from something falling out a cupboard above. So positive catches all the way. Let's pan around and have a look at the area opposite the kitchen, next to the stable door. You'll see I've got the stable door in full use today with the weather. It's keeping me nice and cool. Really like stable doors. The fact that Bailey include these on their caravans is a real selling point. Swift have stopped using them, which is a shame. I really would like a stable door on our caravan. Having a young child and a small dog on a day like today, you can have air coming through, you can have a view outside, and you know everyone's safe in the caravan. So really, really positive. There's no window in there, but I don't think that's an issue, because I'd probably have that open most of the time, most of the year, apart from winter caravanning. That's the mode that I'd have it in. One thing to bear in mind, there are no fly screen options on this caravan. It doesn't come in one of standard. You can't add one afterwards. So that's just something to bear in mind. So you could have all the screens closed on the side windows, front window, etc. on your Heki roof light just above. But then obviously you're going to have an issue with not having one on here. So again, every caravan has a compromise. You've got a stable door, but you've not got a fly screen. So just something to bear in mind. You might not notice that when you're looking around these and purchasing them. Really like the handy shelf above the door. Great for keys. I'd probably stick my keys up there, and particularly if you've got children that you don't want grabbing things, you know, if you want your phone out of the way, stick it up there and no one can mess with it. So it's right out of the way above the door. Couple of hooks there for sticking your coats. That'd be great in winter. It's not until your winter caravan that you start to wonder where you're going to put everything when you've come in from a muddy walk, or you're covered in rain. So you've got your dripping wet through. Where do you put things? Generally for us, it's in the shower. Let it all drip in there. But you've got some hooks above. You've got a handy little storage area, which I'm maximising today for my bits and pieces. So again, a good area for sticking your bags, keys, anything that you want to grab quickly. Great if you've got a dog. Stick your dog lead there. You've got your light switches here, just underneath that piano black and grey, and then your main controls for the caravan. It is relatively basic, so if you compare that, for example, to the Swift command system, Swifts were using the command system up until 2021 in their Sprite models, or in our dealer special 2021 Swift Freestyle. We had a Swift command. So if you compare those two, this does look relatively basic. However, it does the job. What do you really need? You need to be able to turn the power on, lights, water pump, monitor your battery. I think that does it all. You've got your Truma controls, obviously, over to the kitchen area. It is attractive. It is piano black. There's no hiding the fact it is basic, but they're stored or kept just there. Really useful area. When you first walk in, it's a good height. Normally they're usually up there high up, but yeah, down there at sort of waist level, anyone can reach it, which might be an issue obviously if you've got children that like messing around with things. Just thinking now with our 4-year-old, might be tempted to turn the power off on the caravan. But yeah, it is an easy location to reach. There's been a change here on this 2023 model. If you have seen the previous models, this sort of panel here wasn't as far forwards. It was pushed much further back. It had some shelving within it. So this area here that's been created is new. This as a result is this area here, this worktop space is smaller. This would probably be your designated area for a TV. The front shelf in the lounge area of this caravan doesn't have any aerial point, any 12 volt socket. It only has the one 230 volt, which is sort of down on the below the bench, so it's not practical for a TV. Perhaps smart TV would work on the front, but it'd have to be small just because of the way the front infinity window curves up. So this is more than likely going to be where you put your TV. So this is slightly smaller now, so you're going to have to think about the size of TV in terms of the overhang. You don't want it overhanging too far into sort of the walkway area. You might want to put a bracket on here, but then you're going to have to think about reinforcing it. So you're going to have to reinforce obviously through so it can hold a bracket, maybe with an extra piece of trim. Your shelves now are to the side here, and then you're probably wondering where the power and TV point is. It's just down the bottom there, and you might notice there's 12 volt, one 230 volt socket and an aerial point. So my only concern would be there's only one 230 volt socket, so you're probably going to have to put an adapter or extension cable in there, an extension lead, if you want to plug more in than just your TV. Generally you're going to have a TV. Some people have sound bars. You might have a satellite box, for example, so you might want more than one socket. So there could have been two in there. That would have been nice. I know it puts price up, puts costs up, but that would have been a nice sort of upgrade on this 2023 model. So yeah, possibly a TV bracket on there to keep that work surface free, which would then give me space to put my coffee machine, so I could fit the Nespresso on here. But then I've obviously got power issues because I've got a TV, I've got an espresso machine, I've got a sound bar, so where's all this going to plug in? So I definitely have to look at extra sockets behind there. I might have to have some spec if I'd ordered this from new, so spec by the dealer. But yeah, you have got some extra worktop space just in that area. Really bright area as well with that large Heki roof light. It's a really good quality roof light with fly screen, and you've also got blind. These are the same that we've got in our caravan. No issues to date. So really like that. And a lovely breeze coming through currently. Moving into the bedroom area of this Discovery D44, you'll notice it's a French style fixed bed, which basically means it's a bed which is sort of pushed into one corner of the caravan, and it has a cut-off just to the side there, which helps get through to the bathroom in this case. The cut-offs are generally of varying proportions. This one isn't too aggressive. It doesn't cut off to the point where anyone's legs would be hanging off of there. Sometimes they can be a lot sort of more extreme, but this one is relatively subtle. So concerns regarding French beds in general is that if someone needs the toilet in the night, you've got to climb across the other person, which is obviously the case. It is the compromise with this style of bed. We had a French bed in our previous caravan and didn't find an issue with it. However, depending on mobility and depending on personal needs, obviously that may differ. The great thing about any fixed bed design is that in general you get storage under the bed, and that is definitely the case with this D44. Lots of underbed storage. You've got a locker over to the back there so you can push things through from outside. And with this bed just being behind the axle, you've not got to worry too much. That doesn't mean obviously we can go to the extreme, but you haven't got to worry as much or too much about putting, say, chairs or tables under there, for example. I possibly would be cautious about a heavy awning. I would probably still put that down the centre area of this caravan. You'd have to play with the nose weight to get that right. Heavier items, obviously. There's the wheel arch cover, so heavier items sort of this front section, and then lighter items towards the back where that bathroom, that washroom wall is. But really positive having this storage space. You've got your consumer unit there with your breakers and fuses, which feeds through into your hookup point, electric hookup point, which is on the near side, which is a shame, but I guess it would mean cabling, running the cable under the caravan to get it to the offside, which is the ideal place out of the way, so it's not in your awning or in your sort of daily living space outside the caravan. But good space under there. It's on gas strut, so it stays up in place, and it's very easy to push up and down, so you don't need to be particularly strong to do that. Just make sure you use that cut out section so you don't trap your hands. You've got what looks to be a good quality mattress. Some of the Bailey mattresses, the feedback is they are quite firm. I've only ever used Duvalet. I've never slept on a Bailey mattress, so it's difficult to comment. So maybe someone in the comments below could comment on their experience with Bailey mattresses. But it does look to be relatively comfortable. I've sat on it, although not slept on it. There is a difference, of course, but the spec of it looks reasonable. For the price point, certainly is the case. Lockers above the bed, they are not on positive catches, so they just open easily, but good level of storage space above there. Like with any island style bed where you've got lockers above, particularly French beds, you're going to have to climb onto the bed to access them. Maybe not so much these side ones here, but certainly the back. And those open shelves, they are lipped, but they go deep right back into the corner, and I'd have to really get up onto the bed. I've got relatively long arms and I would struggle to sort of get access into there, so that's a consideration. I probably wouldn't use those an awful lot, but I guess what else would you do with that area? Maybe extend those lockers down a little, make 2 lockers on this side. But yeah, it's not particularly practical, but at least you've got some storage options if you want to stick some things up there. What I do like, however, are these small side shelves. Stick your phone, and then on this one here, you might struggle for a mug on there. You'd have to be brave and balance it, but you definitely get a mug on there in the morning for your tea or coffee. Sort of like a token headboard. I guess it's modern, it's contemporary, it matches the furnishings, but it's not particularly huge. It's not going to be comfortable to sort of lean against. It's more of a aesthetic approach. You've got spotlights or reading lights above the bed. Again, only one has got a USB charging port, so I think Bailey are assuming that only one person from each couple using the caravan's going to have a phone, because this one hasn't got it. It would have been nice for both to have had that. I have noticed as well with this caravan, it's worth noting, I have really been going around with a fine tooth comb and looking for sort of build quality issues, particularly because this one's not had the PDI yet, so it's giving a true honest representation of how this has come from Bailey. In general, I'm really impressed, as I've said. One thing I have noticed that was the case with the previous generation as well is there are a lot of these stickers over screws that are already coming free. I mean, I'll stick that one back down, it's easily done. That's, there you go, repaired. But they are already lifting throughout this van. So I would probably want from Bailey or from the dealer, because I think you can buy them individually, or you can buy them through Prima Leisure, but I think they come as individual stickers rather than on a sheet. But I'd probably want a sheet of them in the wood grain and the grey, just so as they fell off throughout the ownership of the van, if I kept the van for sort of 3 to 5 years, I could stick them back in place. I have noticed throughout the caravan I mean, this one here, for example, I noticed earlier, is covering a little bit of a monstrosity. It's clearly been drilled incorrectly and then re-screwed by whoever built it. But stick that back on, easily fixed. Look, they go back in place. That one not so well because of the extra hole on there. But yeah, I think with extreme heat or extreme temperature changes, you're probably going to find they peel. So yeah, I'd want probably a sheet of each of the colours, just so I could keep on top of them over time. I don't think it's going to be something that drops off on a weekly basis, but as they do over time, you can keep things looking neat and tidy. Let's pan around then and have a look at the wardrobe space before we go through into the rear washroom. So a real positive with this caravan is that it's got a real generous sized wardrobe area. So good length in terms of hanging space, so your winter jackets are going to really hang freely there, even if you store things in boxes or on the top of this shelf here. You've got so much hanging room, you're going to be fine. So this is a 4-berth. Most caravans struggle to accommodate the whole sort of family in terms of storage. I think you'd struggle with 4, but I do think it's generous and it's better than most, if I'm honest, in terms of what I've seen in other caravans and other options at this price point. I do think that is relatively generous in space, particularly because you've got that big deep shelf below as well, and that's great for storing shoes and what have you. The bottom unfortunately has the wheel arch, and you've then got some ducting there for the blown air heating. There does seem to be a good amount of vents for the Truma blown air heating throughout the caravan. The reason I mentioned that, there's one just down here for the bedroom. You've got a couple down there, one just to the side of the kitchen, and you've got one to the front just at the bottom there, right underneath that infinity window. We've got Alder wet central heating in the current caravan. We had blown air in the previous. We winter caravan with caravan 12 months of the year. Which do I prefer? They both have the pros and cons. I don't think the difference is as great as perhaps I've heard people suggest. I'd happily have both. I don't think having a blown air heating system would be an issue for me. The Alder is nice in the fact that it maintains the temperature much better, whereas the blown air gets hotter much quicker. So yeah, if I had to choose, I would choose the Alder, but there isn't that much in it, to be honest with you. I don't think you're going to be at that great disadvantage, and we never had any issues caravanning over winter with blown air. The only issues that you can find, as we'll talk about when we go through into the rear washroom, is that depending on how the caravan heating is ducted, by the time the air gets to the back of the caravan, it can be somewhat cooler. But there are things you can do for that. A lot of people insulate the ducting, particularly if it goes outside underneath the van. If it's on the inside of the van, it won't be so much of an issue. You'll tend to find that the temperature, sort of the degree of change, is only subtle as it goes to the end of the van. It's more when the ducting goes underneath the caravan that you perhaps have to consider insulating those ducting pipes. But let's go through into the washroom and have a look at what I feel is a really generous space that's been dedicated to this caravan for the washroom area. So stepping through then into the washroom area, it follows the theme of the rest of the caravan, and it's a really nice size space, as you'll see. Very, very generous. Real pro point of this caravan. Not sure if you can pick it up on camera, but one thing I have noticed is that there's a lack of roof light just here, which does make this area somewhat dark. I'm just going to come back slightly into the bedroom area. It's a similar story in the bedroom. You've only got the one Heki roof light above the kitchen. It's not so much of an issue here because you've got that generous window, which does almost make up for the lack of roof light. However, in this bathroom area, I do think it would really benefit. Again, it could push this Bailey Discovery into the Phoenix price point, which might undermine the purpose of the range, perhaps. But yeah, it is slightly darker. I don't think it'd put me off this Caravan. It wouldn't be sort of like a real make or break. It is noticeable in the fact that it would improve it though. And I think you would sort of think, well, why didn't Bailey do that? I think the answer's obvious from a cost perspective, but it would benefit from an extra roof light. But look at that space. Open shelving that you can use when you are on holiday. Good lock cabinet there, so you can keep things in there when you're traveling. You're not going to be traveling with heavy enough items to cause a problem with toe instability. Great thing about having a shower room as well, you can keep your Aquaroll in there, your Wastemaster out of the way. But just look at the space, the floor space, it is really, really generous. Reasonable size sink, not particularly deep, but relatively wide. So you've got a mirror. It's the only mirror in the Caravan. That would be noteworthy in the fact that this Caravan does lack mirrors. It is the only one. And then we go through into the shower area, and again, very generous. You've got that roof light, which I've got open. Again, I've got every single window and roof light open in this Caravan today. And you can see the contour of this really unique design, look, with the rounded corner. Normally that wouldn't be the case. We'll look outside shortly at this unique exterior, and you can just see it there as well. That rounded finish, really, really unique. It's part of the draw to this Caravan, is how unique it looks. So yeah, great area in terms of space. The price point is apparent in some respects in relation to the lack of roof light and perhaps a lack of lighting in an evening as well. You've got the LED strip just above the mirror. You've got a spot here as well, but there's not an awful lot of lighting throughout this Caravan in comparison to some of the more expensive models. As we step outside the washroom, we will just note the main dining table that's just kept to the side here. Nice and neat, it blends in with it being the same colour as the rest of the furnishings. It's not a major issue. You are going to have to carry it from the back to the front of the Caravan, but there's no other practical space to keep that table that I can see of, so I don't see that being a major issue. So we've had a good look around the interior of this Discovery D44. We really like it. It's a huge improvement on the previous generation in terms of aesthetic. You may think otherwise. If you do, let us know in the comments below. But what we will do now is take a step outside and have a look at this unique exterior Bailey Discovery. So this is a 4-berth Caravan with a fixed bed. So there are 3 Discoveries in the range. The D42, which is a 2-berth, has no fixed bed. It's the typical sofas at the front make the double bed. You've got the D44L, it's a 4-berth. You make the double at the front, and you've got a side dinette which turns into bunks. You've got this, the D44, and this particular model has the fixed bed. It's the only fixed bed version of the range. It's got the French bed in the corner, which lifts, as we've looked at previously. Lots of storage. It's the largest Caravan in this range. Has an MTPLM of 1247. It can be upplated to 1300 kg, which you might want to consider if your tow car allows. The current recommended retail price is 21,499, but then you have to add on the delivery fee, which I'm not sure why they do it this way. I prefer it to be built into the price of the caravan. It's possibly down to the dealers and the sort of the arrangements they have with the dealers, etc. But the delivery fee on top would put this caravan just over £22,000. Loudon Leisure World is currently offering £500 discount off of the RRP. However, they are now taking orders on this particular caravan for the 2024 season. So already you can see the popularity of these Bailey Discoveries. There's a couple that are currently in, ready to go out to customers who have been waiting for them since the February show. So we have to wait for Bailey to put these through production. So being the largest of the current Bailey Discovery range, you would have to consider whether or not you had the capability with your tow vehicle. There's a total shipping length of 7.149 meters with this, so 23.5 feet long, and it has an internal length of 5.31 meters, so 17.5 feet, with an overall width of 2.28 meters, which is 7'4". One of the reasons for the shipping length of this particular caravan is that long A-frame, and love it or hate it, it looks similar to some of the Continental vans that you tend to see with the longer A-frames. There is a purpose behind it. So with this caravan you can opt for a bike rack which fits on the front, which makes total sense. A lot of the bike racks you tend to see are on the back of the caravan, where you don't want to be adding that additional weight, particularly if you've got electric bikes. Obviously with the batteries, etc., they are getting heavier, whereas with this the weight is in the right area. With having no front locker as well, it would probably help with the nose weight of this caravan, so it'll give you sort of a better tailoring of the nose weight. You can also get various boxes that fit on the front of this. So there is an official box that you can get for the front, but because of sort of supply issues I've seen over the last few years, people have been putting various other manufacturers' boxes on the front, which is again really good idea. It gives you extra storage, flexibility. I'd probably opt for the bike rack. Personally, I think that I'd rather see a slight price increase on this caravan with the addition of the bike rack as standard, because most people who have this caravan, or from what I see in the forums online, from the Facebook owners group, tend to add a bike rack to this caravan, and it makes perfect sense. So why not add one as standard and just add a few £100 to the RRP? I think that would be a good call, particularly based on the target audience of this caravan. It's probably looking at someone who's downsizing perhaps to something a little more simple in terms of specification, although again, as I've said before, I'd argue that this is not an entry-level caravan by any means. It's got a good level of spec. It's compromised like any other caravan in places. It's probably aimed more at the lifestyle end of the market also. So in terms of the colourways, greys chosen, the blues, so it's got more of perhaps a fashionable style image, slightly cooler in design, it's a bit quirkier, so it's a bit more unconventional. Perhaps looking at new caravanners, people new to the market, people who've perhaps come from camping, don't like the look of traditional caravans, but intimidated by the traditional style of caravans, the size of caravans, and want to have a go. It's perhaps aimed at that market also. Perhaps young families as well, with the practicality of these caravans being more simple, less to break obviously. I think it's got quite a wide scope in terms of the market. But yeah, I think adding a bike rack would definitely be a positive to this. You've got the Alco hitch head stabiliser, as you'd expect to see on this Alco chassis. No front locker, which for me, being a Swift caravan owner, is somewhat alien. I'd have to really adapt my style. I'm assured by Bailey owners that you do adapt and it's not an issue. I think it'd be a case of just having to get used to it and figuring out where you put your things. Obviously in this one you've got underbed storage, you've got numerous lockers, you've got the under the front bench locker here that is a good usable space. You've also got your gas locker to the side, so this is where that extra worktop unit was, where we'd perhaps put the TV. You've got your gas locker for your storage, gas storage. You might fit, if you only use the one bottle, you might fit your electric cable etc in there, other accessories. So that could be used as storage if you didn't use the 2 bottles. And obviously this is the winner, this is the selling point on this caravan. The underbed storage, vast, really useful. I use mine all the time. Obviously have to be careful weight wise, but it's a really useful space and saves taking things through the caravan and getting your caravan dirty and damaging things. That's that electric hookup point I was speaking of earlier, the other side to it from under the bed. You'd probably just plug in there, and before you put your corner steadies down, just bring the cable underneath the van and out the way. So it's not the end of the world. Absolutely love the Whale system, the slide rather than the pull out from Truma. You've got this, pan round to the offside of the caravan, these similar style slide water hook up there, so that's where you connect to your Aquaroll or chosen water storage device, outlet for the Truma heating system. You've got your fridge vents for the Dometic fridge, toilet cassette on the correct side of the caravan, the offside, so it's not going to affect your awning. You're not going to have to empty it, although I don't think we ever empty our toilet cassette at times that generally would interfere with everyday living of the caravan. So if it was on the other side, it might not have been the end of the world. And it's that unique style. I've heard it described as a horse box before, or similar in style to a horse box. I can see why, with those curved sides. I guess it's a love or hate style. I really love it, so we really like this design. 3-piece construction design in terms of you've got one side there coming to a joint here, as you can see, which then wraps round this side to the front, and then you've got the front piece which obviously goes over the caravan. I do wonder if this will be a more durable design over time, possibly less prone to damp on those corners. I know some of the old Baileys had issues in the front and rear corners where you'd have water run off behind the panels and it would soak into the corners of the wooden floor and eventually sort of rot through. It is relatively common in some of the older Bailey caravans. Obviously the roof straps can be an issue on some of the older caravans. I've still seen relatively new caravans with roof strap issues. However, will this caravan, as a result of its unique design, evade those issues? Possibly. Could this be the most durable Bailey caravan design to date? I think it could be. Don't see an awful lot of ingress issues, water ingress issues. I've seen a few issues with water pumps that have leaked and floors have had to be replaced due to internal leaks, but nothing yet from an external point of view. So they are still relatively new. They've only been produced since 2019, so there's still time obviously for issues to be raised. It would be interesting to see how these date. Love the silver side panels, GRP, LED light above the door. Obviously that's stable, which we had open earlier. Alloy wheels. As you can see, you've got no shock absorbers on this. I would be tempted, because of the state of our roads currently, from a pothole point of view, to fit shock absorbers to this as a dealership sort of after fit. I think that would be a worthwhile consideration on this caravan. You've got the corner steadies. They are standard corner steadies, not the heavy duty, but I don't think that's an issue with this weight of van. I'll just pop the two back ones down today for us to have a look at this. But those new graphics, the new decals, are the biggest difference that we can see on this 2023 model. It's a lot bolder in terms of style. Really like it. So unique. I know I keep using that word, but it is the case with this caravan. And with that front infinity window and those new decals to the side, almost like an Art Deco style. Very cool in style indeed. So let us know what you think in the comments below. Would you consider downsizing, down-speccing from a larger, more expensive caravan to the Bailey Discovery? There's the D42, the D44L and the D44. Lots of options. They do have limited availability. I believe if a dealer has stock, that is the only availability currently. Factory orders are being taken for 2024. Let us know what you think then of this caravan in the comments below. Would love to see what you think. We'll keep the caravan overviews coming. If there's any caravans you want us to have a look at, let us know and we'll see if we can find them. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.